Hey, it's Eric G. Around the House is sponsored by Baldwin Hardware. For 75 years, Baldwin Hardware has been known for its first-class quality and craftsmanship in door and cabinetry hardware. As an alumnus of the Baldwin Hardware Design Council, I can say I have seen the details and quality from design to the finished product. If you're looking for a new style and old-world craftsmanship, I can tell you there is only one Baldwin Hardware. Check out what would look great in your home at baldwinhardware.com.
It's Around the House.
Welcome to Around the House Show. We have a little bit of a different show ahead today. You know, it's summertime. We like to go out and go boating, have a good time. Well, we're going to talk fast boats today. We have Darrell Strong, one of the owners of Strong Racing, and the Unlimited Hydroplane Circuit. We are going to have a lot of fun today talking H1 Unlimited, fast boats, having to rebuild one, and how do you go about that, as well as we have Brent Hall, an upcoming driver in the H1 Unlimited circuit. So we're going to have a little bit of fun talking boats, little bit of building, and putting a boat back together from a recent accident that they had out in Indiana. So this is going to be a big show today. Something a little bit different. Enjoy it, and let's have some fun with Unlimited Hydroplane Racing and boating.
When it comes to remodeling and renovating your home, there is a lot to know, but we've got you covered. This is Around the House.
Welcome to Around the House with Eric G. and Caroline B., where we typically talk home improvement every single weekend. Thanks for joining us. Hey, Caroline, we're going to go a little off the reservation today, aren't we?
We are, but it's good. We like to broaden our audience. You guys have got something new to learn about. I love it.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk here a little bit of unlimited hydroplane racing because, you know, I grew up doing this, and we've got a lot of different radio audiences out there that catch Around the House that have this in their neighborhood. So we want to make sure and help those guys out as well. And if there's nothing about unlimited hydroplane racing, is it a bunch of people doing DIY when it comes down to it as a team. And so this is kind of the ultimate DIY project. I want to introduce Darrell Strong from Strong Racing and my favorite driver out there, Brent Hall. Welcome to Around the House, brothers.
Thank you.
Hello, guys.
Thank you. Yep, exciting.
And for the audience,
Brent,
if you love NASCAR, this is way better. Like, this is the ultimate cream puff. So just tell our audience, Eric, a little bit about what this is, because not everybody knows. I'm from New York, so we don't have it here. At least that I'm aware of.
So we'll talk to these guys here about it, but I grew up in the Tri-Cities in Kennewick, Pasco, Richland, Washington, where we have 610 KONA radio that thanks, guys, for carrying the show. I grew up there living on the Columbia. My parents had a house up off Canal Drive, and I would sit up there and I would hear these big Rolls-Royce Allison engines as a kid waking me up when the first boat would hit the water, and I would go watch the races. I'd hang out in the pits, and I would watch this circle track of unlimited hydroplane racing where guys back in the day, safety was a thought, but secondary. It was the best they had with the technology at the time. And I would go out and watch people doing, 150 to 200 miles an hour as a kid watching on the river out there. And it was a lot of fun. And now I think the sport is coming back into its heyday. And I want to ask Darrell about this because we've got parity in this sport like never before. I mean, back in the day when I was a kid, when I really was old enough to understand it, it was like the Miss Budweiser and the Atlas Van Lines, and it was just dual battle and everybody else cleaned up afterwards. Darrell, what's your thought on unlimited hydroplane racing where it is today?
I was reading a book that I think David Williams wrote, who runs the museum, and as just hydroplane racing in the Tri-Cities. And you look at national championships, and like Budweiser won 13 out of 14 years. Mm-hmm. And you think, the great thing now is, I think, Brent, when you think at least 4 boats could win any race. And you look at our boat in Madison, was neck and neck with the boat, the Home Street boat that's won most of the national championships for the last 6-7 years. And we were actually going faster on the outside until we, took off like an airplane.
We'll get to that because that's a whole other subject. But, Brent, you are a veteran, but up and coming as well in this sport. I think you have some, in my opinion, at least, you've got some huge days ahead of you out there as a driver. Where do you think that unlimited hydroplane racing is right now?
Yeah, no, I think we're in an exciting time. This is a time where, as Darrell mentioned, we've got 4 to 5 boats that could win these races at any time. And you were talking about the history. You're absolutely right. It could either have been the Budweiser or the Atlas Van Lines back in the day, right? Yep. But now to have several boats that can win. And for me, I think the big thing, we've got to get the stories out about the drivers and for people to get to know the drivers. Yes. So just like we're doing with this particular podcast, you need to know who we are. And so I think that's one of the things that's really important to me. And there's great stories behind that, and excited to share some of those throughout this podcast.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Darrell, so let's start out with you, kind of the history of this. We talked a little bit before the show started, but how did you get into unlimited hydroplanes? Because I know you grew up in the same town I did.
Yeah, I mean, you can't grow up in the Tri-Cities, Washington, without being a hydro fan. Well, if you're not, everybody's shocked because it's like our Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And little did I know that I know now after being at all the race courses, it's actually the best one.
Cool.
It's the best race. You can ask anybody, but I started going, we moved there when I was 7, and we went to somebody's house up on Canal by where you lived and saw the aerial view. And I got to watch it in 67, which was the second year. I think it started in 1966.
That was Atomic Cup days, right?
I think Miss Bardall won. And
cool.
And it was just, I'd never seen anything like that in my life. And then probably the most told story in every interview I've ever done is I took my wife on our first date when we're 15 to a boat race.
Nice.
And we've been married 43 years now. So we got married right out of high school. But that was our first date, and it was just a big part of our life. I mean, you would know this, Eric, growing up the Tri-Cities when they had the piston boats. And back then, they would actually come like on Tuesday or Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, it was Monday, Tuesday. It was a whole week, yeah.
And you could hear those boats, and when you did, you'd get on your bicycle and ride as fast as you could to the river so you could watch whoever was out there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And where I was up on Canal, there was times that I would go down there. I was running across the freeway down there, trying to get across there and climbing fences and doing all the stupid stuff a kid at that age shouldn't be doing. But you had to get down there to get there, and it was just a lot of fun.
We were in much better shape, I think.
Yes, yes. So back in the day, to paint a picture for people that don't know the sport, they were mostly wooden boats. You had surplus World War II aircraft engines that were running these things. And it was an open cockpit with a driver in a driving suit with a huge monster collared, hopefully flotation device that when the boat would get wild or flip, you hope to clear the boat before the boat landed.
Yeah.
And that was crazy. Yeah. And now the safety is so much better than what it used to be back then.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean,
100%.
We had a driver, like I said, we'll get into it later about our wreck, but he did that at 186 miles an hour, and he walked away and was at the trophy presentation, and half an hour later and woke up the next day, wasn't even sore.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So do we have this in the Northeast? I'm from New York, New Jersey area. So you guys, is this something that, Brent, I'm going to throw this to you, being the driver, and ladies, like if you like NASCAR and you like the drivers like I do, I'm seeing Brent and he's a good looking man and he's got the whole package going on here. So it's like star quality. We need you to come out east and spread this sport around. And I think people would love it. Eric introduced me to it. It's fabulous. So do we have this out by us, and where do we go to see it?
Yeah. So in the Northeast, it had been there before, but we need to bring it back again. And so, Caroline, I'm kind of the reverse of you. I lived in North Carolina for about 3 years and had the chance to go to a NASCAR race. And I'm kicking myself now that I never did. So my offer to you is we need to get you out to a race somehow, one that's close, whether the East Coast or have you come out this way to the West Coast. But there's nothing like it. And very similar to Darrell for me. I grew up watching these as a kid, and every summer we'd have a party on our deck and we had a peekaboo view of the race. And that just meant summer was here. And I think back with friends and all the times that we had rooting for Atlas Van Line, Circus. But we want to continue that same feeling today. And, it's just different. And what I would say is there's a new way to connect with drivers that you couldn't do back then. And so I think about it would be great to have a Facebook page with Bill Muncie and be able to interact with him, but you can't do that. Yeah. But you can do that with Corey Peabody. You can do that with me. You can do that with J. Michael. And it's a new way to interact with the drivers that we've never had before. And videos of the boats going out, pictures of the boats when they come back in. All that stuff is there for our fans. And whether you're here locally or you're in the Northeast like you can catch the race on Facebook. You can also view it live on YouTube. So there's a lot of ways to connect.
Yeah. Well, let's get into this a little bit. Darrell, you just had 2 big races, and I think you probably had the highest of highs and the lowest of lows without somebody getting hurt.
Yeah,
what was it? Yeah. Oh, no. Outside of your wallet, my friend. Yeah. Outside of your wallet and the budget. Outside of that. I mean, you guys went down there in Alabama and won the freaking Gold Cup, dude.
Yeah, in our 6th race we've ever been in. That's I can't express how great of a thing that is, how lucky we are, because some people go 20 years and they've never won it. And for us to do that is amazing.
I mean, that's like having a brand new football team in the first season winning the Super Bowl. It just doesn't happen in sports, right?
No. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, we were very fortunate to buy really good equipment and get really good drivers. Nobody knew how good Corey was. He was kind of a backup driver. And I joke because I had a karaoke contest when I was a sponsor in the Tri-Cities, and it was like a rap-off among all the drivers. You think about a bunch of white middle-class drivers trying to rap, so it wasn't like you're gonna become a professional if you won this, right? and it's like Corey won it, and when we're looking for a driver, we said, "What about that guy that won the rap thing?" So that's how we contacted him. And here he is, a Gold Cup winner and a great, great driver.
Prior to coming on the show, Darrell, he makes it sound like he just picked a winner, but he's got a lot of experience under his belt. So Darrell, kind of tell us how you got into this, because you've been watching the sport for a long time and you've got eagle eyes and you've been on all sides. So how did you end up picking the boat that won, and in your little history?
Well, I was a sponsor of a boat for 8 years, and we had a lot of fun, but we typically finished 4th or 5th. And so you got to learn a lot about maybe how you do it differently if you ever did it. And really, we were fortunate enough to get really good boats and really good equipment, because in this sport, you need to start with the best stuff you can buy, because it's hard to grow to that level once you start running. It's just we're using Army surplus jet engines from the early 1970s. And so if you can amass a lot of this stuff early and we were lucky too to get, Corey, and then who was an unknown quality. And then he grew up with J. Michael Kelly. They were neighbors and they'd known each other since kindergarten.
I didn't even know that. So yeah.
A lot of people would say J. Michael Kelly is, and we just call him Mike in our hits. But, Mike's the best driver in the sport to a lot of people. If you polled everybody, they say, well, that guy can make any boat fast. He's a lot like Chip Hanauer in my mind. But to get drivers like that, to get boats like that, and we did make financially probably the biggest commitment anybody's made in this sport since Bernie left.
Yeah. And for people who don't know what Bernie is, that's Bernie Little, who actually owned and ran the Miss Budweiser team that was the dominant sport. This was the you can't even call it the Tom Brady because they had way too many wins. It would be like if Tom Brady won for 20 years. That's how that sport went. It was just every single time he would go out there and run circles, and usually the people that won were because they made a mistake or something broke.
In our very first race, we got first and second. And the funniest thing I said is, after being a sponsor 8 years, never winning anything, somebody goes, "You need to come to the trophy presentation." I go, "There's trophies?"
That's hilarious.
You're like, "Where's that at?"
I've never seen that.
Yeah.
That is awesome. And then, of course, you had the low point in the pocketbook and the budget where Corey Peabody flipped the U9 Links Healthcare.
Yeah, it was an epic final. I mean, you live for finals like that. And we tell our drivers, we're here to race. Don't back off.
Yep.
And Home Street with Jimmy Shane is just a fabulous boat. I mean, that boat is the newest hull. It would have been the newest Budweiser if they would have stayed in the sport. It's just a fabulous boat, and it's dominated. And we were actually, they got that boat set up, and Corey was right on his outside, and actually you couldn't shake him, and he was gaining on him. And I mean, we're talking 4 laps of the final where they're a half a boat length apart.
Yep.
And then they go into the turn 1 of the final heat, or the final lap, and they hit a roller, and they both went up in the air, and Jimmy's boat thankfully landed.
Yep.
And a piece of Corey's boat broke on the back called the shoe.
Yep.
And that actually creates downforce for you. That broke right when they hit the wave, and then it looked like he might settle down. He's like floating, and then boom, it just took off. It did 2 flips, I think, and landed kind of on its side, and then rolled back to its right side up. And then we're all just, I mean, it's very dramatic. Corey's kids are crying, I mean, we're all crying. We're just hoping he's okay. And he opens the hatch and crawls out, and standing on the deck, waiting for the rescue pet. And he just, and it was very dramatic, but it doesn't happen too often. I think the last one was in Seattle in 2018 or 19. I can't remember what year it was, but Cal Phipps flipped Wiggins' boat. But it doesn't happen too often. And if you look back in this book I was reading, they talk about, like, in a stretch there, 2 or 3 drivers were dying every year.
Oh, yeah.
And for the safety, and I think Bernie Little, I mean, the Budweiser team developed a lot of this cockpit stuff and the safety you go watch that on video. It's dramatic. You're thinking somebody wouldn't survive that, and he opens up and he's getting a trophy 30 minutes later.
Yeah.
Signing autographs.
Yeah. It's crazy. And it looked like he hung it out there and was like floating for 500 yards. Cause what's the speed when that nose lifted? Was he, 180s, 190s?
He told me he's going 186.
I think that's the thing too. Like, where, as a driver, he was doing everything that he needed to do to keep it down. He had his foot on the wing, and just the way he hit that wave in comparison to the way that the Home Street hit it, it was just enough to get the boat to where the wing couldn't recover it. And I think that's the part that people don't understand. There's always an armchair quarterback saying, "Oh, I wonder if he should have slowed down." It happened so fast. He was doing what he needed to do to go win, and that's what we expect from him.
If he would have been there 15 seconds sooner or 15 seconds later, the wave would have been a different angle, probably wouldn't even gone over. So it's
that's right.
You have natural parameters with this sport, right? So it's amazing that, nothing's a consistent. The weather plays into that. The waves play into that.
That's right.
Amazing.
Well,
Currents, wind. Yep.
Think about NASCAR driving on a waterbed.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
This is insane.
Good analogy. Yeah.
Well, when I last saw you guys in person, when we were testing down here in Vancouver, Washington, on the Columbia River, I was sitting there and I was watching Dave Willock was talking to a couple guys, And he talked about where he used to go out and spend hours before races, after races, during the year, and would sit there with a lawn chair and watch the river and how it reacted, and would study how the currents were and how a roller would hit over here and it would go to here and break this way. And it was very much scientific as he was studying to read how those things happened. And it was kind of a fascinating conversation that I was, just watching going, I had no idea that he was studying things like that and it seemed, I think that was back in the Budweiser days. It seemed like he was doing that earlier on in his career, but I was surprised that he was putting in that level back then of just trying to figure out how the water worked.
Yeah, he's one of the smartest guys I've ever talked to. You should have him on the show sometime, Eric. I mean, he is a great interview. I mean, the guy.
Oh, I bet.
The guy, what he will tell you. I mean, I sit and listen to him talk for hours in the pits. I mean, he is so smart, and I hear he's mellowed with age. He's 68. He's still out there beating everybody. I mean, really fast.
Yeah, I mean, he's been through just about everything out there. I think as many years as he's got in the boat, and vice versa. Brent, you're an upcoming driver, man. You're out there looking for a ride right now. You've been working up the circuits, doing all the other more limited, class races throughout the different boat leagues, and in doing that. And man, you're like next up as I see out there.
Nice.
Wow, thank you. And that's an honor. And I think one of the things that I've always focused on is leveraging my strengths. And I definitely understand the marketing side of it. And Caroline, I think you were wondering a little bit about, hey, how did you even get started with this? And for me, I started with radio control, and I really never thought about, oh yeah, I want to drive one. But actually I had the chance to meet Harold Mills, who's my mentor. And someone said, hey, how would you like to meet the first black driver to ever drive at Seafair? And I said, you don't have to ask me twice. Let's go. So I went and met him, and, he was kind of checking me out. I said, hey, I'd love to do anything, wipe down the boat, whatever. And he's like, but he wanted to see if I had the follow through skills. Yeah. So he didn't give me a position right away. And he said, okay, well, give me a call at this time on the dot, called at that time. And I crewed for him in 2005. And my thought was, hey, I'm going to be the marketing guy for him and help him get into an unlimited, but he retired that next year. So I was like, well, maybe what I'll do is I'll lease a boat. We'll do a fundraiser for kids and see if I can get it around the course. And that was 2007. Then I've had the opportunity to drive several different types of boats and test drove the 9 in 2012. And that was a little bit like test driving a Ferrari before you're ready to buy one. It was a chance for me to see what it was like. And I got it around the course. I think my average speed was 139 miles an hour, but I knew I needed more time in a class below that. So I spent the last 6 years racing for Hop Racing and Grand Prix, and got some more seat time there, and now ready to take a swing at that Ferrari again.
Nice. That's awesome. And man, what I love about this sport is there's no ego that the fans see with the drivers. It is such a fan-centric, good people racing thing where, and I'll be honest, it wasn't always that way, but the last number of years, I think it has shifted even more towards just that access that the fans get to the drivers, the boats, the course, see what's going on. It's a sport that I think that I was scared of maybe a decade ago going away, that has really turned around into something that I think its best days are still ahead of it. So Darrell,
I'm going to ask an amateur question, and it may not be amateur, I don't know. Yeah. But so in NASCAR, they have created the cars. It never used to be like this back in the day, right? It was like who could make the better car. And then it became everything was equal. Every car was equal, the motors were equal, and it became about the driver and the course. And what I think excites me about this sport is that it's sort of the NASCAR of the old day. Do you control, does everybody have a different type of boat? Are you limited? Are you all using the same engine, or are you able to tinker with it more so like the beginning days of NASCAR where they could, put a little nitrous or whatever they did in the engine and nobody said anything? So that fascinates me.
Yeah, you can, we all have to use the same basic engine. Mm-hmm. but there's probably a variation of 300 horsepower. They would run anywhere from 2,700 up to, say, 3,000. And so some boats are definitely faster than other boats. And it's very interesting we call them go fast guys. It's the old guys. I don't know, Brent, maybe there's 7 or 8 of them in the sport. And if you're lucky enough to work with one, they'll set the wings different. I think we got a couple guys now working on our boat today, the Campbell brothers. And I mean, they'll get that boat ride. They learn how to adjust that wing, everything. And so
they're juiced.
It's just dialing it in. Yeah. It's because different than NASCAR, you want to suck into the ground. These boats, you want to get them in the air. You want only the rudder and the propeller, in the water. But even the propeller design and what you buy and like Bilwalk, they make their own propellers. And like I told you, he's smart. He can do anything on this, it seems like. And we have somebody that will start a prop program next year where we make our own. But it's even how you shape those. And it might be 5 miles an hour difference by how you build that prop. Mm-hmm. So there's all kinds of things, Caroline, that you can do to get better.
That's great.
And those props, when they let loose and fail, it is a violent occurrence on the back frame of a boat. Let me tell you, I've seen some disasters on the back. This isn't like blowing an engine. This is like the driveline in the car letting go at 200 miles an hour and it wants to tear everything else up. That can cause some extreme damage when you have, 3,000 horsepower banging a piece of off-centered metal around in the back of a boat.
Yeah, and these things spin, I've heard, anywhere from 6,000 RPMs to 11,000 RPMs. So there's a lot of stress on them.
That's a big Cuisinart.
Yeah.
Speaking of home improvement.
Yeah, speaking of that.
You got that in there. Nice.
So speaking of home improvement, Darrell, you're now probably trying to assess a boat that came back on a trailer in multiple pieces, and you're probably trying to figure out what's going on with that. How's that coming? And you don't have to give any secrets if you don't want to here, because I'm happy nobody got hurt, but I know there's a large project of DIY putting that thing back together.
Yeah, when you put it on the trailer and you're strapping pieces onto the boat so it won't fly off when you drive it back on the trailer, that's not a good thing. But yeah, what we did, we're lucky we have 2 boats we race. So we just called all the sponsors, moved them all to the other boat, and we'll run them all on one boat the rest of the year. And what we decided is we could have done a patch job and tried to get it back as quick as we could, but we decided to totally rebuild it. So it's going to be an 8 to 10 month project. So we won't see that boat till next season.
It's a remodel.
But we see, this is a remodel show. So we are remodeling that boat.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine. And I've seen, the restoration processes on the older boats and this stuff. Do you pretty much just tear that thing back down to square one? Or are you going to start with a whole new boat with that? And
the whole center section of the boat looked like it hadn't been damaged.
Yeah, it looked clean.
So that looked good. The spar came off. That's the brace on the front that kind of holds the side pieces, the sponsons together. And but the canard, which would be the front wing that adjusts the height of the front of the boat, we could never find it. I don't know what happened to it, but the divers went down and they couldn't find it. I go, it's bright orange, but couldn't find it. Somewhere in the Ohio River in Indiana. But
I was going to say, it'll show up someplace in somebody's wall.
In somebody's yard.
Facebook, so.
Yeah. So
yard art.
So it's we're lucky we have Jeff Campbell and his brother Mike, who know everything about that particular boat and won national championships in that boat. And to have guys like that are willing to rebuild it. And the cool thing is you hear them say, I've always wanted to do this to this boat. And so now we're just going to say it's a clean slate. You can do what you want. And look how fast we had made that. That's the oldest boat racing.
What's the history on that hole, by the way?
It started in 2000. Well, it won its first Gold Cup in 2001. So to have one hole win 2001, somewhere in about the it won 2018 and it won in 2022. But to have a 21-year difference between first win and last win in Gold Cup has never happened before.
Yeah.
And I love the name it had. The sponsor in 2001 was Tubby's Subs out of Detroit, and I'm going to call them next year, and I'll say I'll put your logo on the boat for free, but we just want to run a sticker of Tubby's Subs, just to say, look, we remember the history of this hull.
That's awesome. What were some of the other names that the sponsors on there that were the big ones? Do you remember?
Before we bought it, it was Les Schwab.
Yep.
Mike Jones
ran
it. And it was called Les Schwab, Red Dot. It was called a lot of different things.
Yeah.
I think the boat first started out in 1992. It was it had like 2 different wings or 3 wings. It was
2.
Yeah, it was.
That's right.
And then it got reconfigured. It's broken up before and gotten rebuilt. Most boats are, have that happen to them. But I don't know what it was called. I've been going back. Do you know, Brent? I mean, it's like,
I'm not sure. What's popping in my head, I'm not sure if it was the X-Side, but it seems like that's the name that I'm remembering.
I don't know.
The X-Side too.
It might have been.
Yeah.
So it's it's the way the sport is. Mike Hansen, who's the crew chief for the Madison Home Street Goodman team, he was driving that. He won the first Gold Cup in it in 2001 as a driver. So it just shows how this sport kind of ebbs and flows.
I have a question for Brent. Can you describe to the audience, what does it feel like I've driven around a track, right? So what is the sensation? Like, I'm putting you on the spot, but give us a description of what this feels like when you're driving one of these things.
Hey, we can talk about this all day. No, it's an amazing experience. So as a driver, and I'll share 2 different views. One in an unlimited. So when I test drove it in 2012, you'll hear some people talk about it like driving a school bus, which doesn't seem like the way you describe going 200 miles an hour. But basically with an unlimited, there's a turbine engine and it takes a while for it to spool up. So I remember getting in it and I was like, wow, it's taking a bit for this to go. And then I looked to my left and I saw buoys going by. This was a test session, so not in race water, but once you hit the corner at 3 to 5 Gs, then you know how fast you're going. So the pull, you're trying to keep your head off the other side of the windshield and stay straight. And then think about doing that in between 2 massive rooster tails that can be tons of water right next to you. And if you go into that, that can cause havoc on the boat. It can blow you over. So you're always kind of aware. But if the boat, and Darrell was mentioning this earlier, if the boat is flying the way it should, it starts getting light. So you start to notice that less bouncing off the water, it starts getting light. That means just the prop and the skid fin are in the water, and that's optimum. Now, obviously, you're watching is the nose getting too high, and that's where you use your left foot to control that front wing. But the whole goal is to keep the boat off the water, not scrubbing off speed, and as you get into the corner, hook it up on the skid fin. But then when you're in the corner, you actually need air under the boat. So that's when you drop that front wing to get as much air under the boat as possible so that you can get through the corner, as fast as you possibly can. But boats have different attitudes. So driving an unlimited is one thing, but a Grand Prix, definitely, you step on it and it kind of squirrels a bit. So a little bit different horsepower to weight ratio, but the unlimited is by far, just the amazing kind of pinnacle of where drivers want to get to and to feel that absolute speed.
Amazing.
Yeah. So Darrell, where do you see the sport going now? I mean, I'm so excited for, unlimited racing here with hydroplanes because I see it as, at least in my opinion, it's the new heyday coming out. It's almost like it's reborn again. And the fan experience. Do you see more boats coming on? What do you see kind of if you're going to get a crystal ball out? What's your predictions?
Well, we all know where all the boats are. I think I thought there's 14 raceable boats out there. Mm-hmm. And if we could get, right now we might be racing 6 or 7 of them. But the great thing is you can put on a great show because they're all really fast.
Yeah.
I would like to get maybe 8 or 10 back to racing. I think we need to introduce new people to the sport because just to give you an idea, we started posting videos on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, but mostly Facebook. And since September of last year, we've had 10.2 million views of our videos. And I mean, this is in a sport that gets 10,000 a year. And so you look, there is this, I mean, most of them we found have never seen one before. So it's not hardcore fans. They're sharing it with their friends because they can't believe a boat is going this fast on the water. Yeah. So I think if we can capture it, over the years, we probably haven't managed the sport the best in putting on a show. And if you're a hardcore fan, you just kind of look past it because you understood everything. But if you have to explain a race to somebody that's never seen it and tell them why it was good, then you're missing something. It's got to be inherently good. And I think we can do a better job at that. And I think we really have. We've cleaned up, the rules and not eliminating people so much. And but the biggest thing is the boats are better. I mean, I think the unlimited class, like Brent said, it has to be unreal compared to the next level down for this to really be the sport it should be.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I'll say about this sport that I think is amazing is how, you guys are really competitive out there, but when the boats are on the trailers, there's a lot of camaraderie and friendship between the teams too. This isn't a us versus them thing. It's one huge family out there, which feels good as a spectator and, a lifelong fan of it, is to watch that, it's not what you see with you see every NASCAR movie where the one team wants to go beat up the other team. That's not what Unlimited Racing is about.
Oh yeah. I mean, we're giving each other parts. We understand if we don't have people to race, there's no point in showing up. And I will say, I called Kelly Stockham this morning. His boat got busted up. Mine got busted up. I was telling Brent earlier, somebody said something funny, and we're laughing like little kids on the phone this morning because we're really good friends. And so I look at it, and the other owners, they're not my competitors. They're my partners in a sport. And there's only 4 or 5 owners in this sport. And so we need each other. We have to work together a lot. And you're right. It's like a family reunion when you get in the pits. And like Brent and I were talking, like at Madison, Brent was with us in the pits. And it's like a reality show, isn't it, Brent?
That's what you need for your marketing. Really, you need to make this a reality show. And then you'll be like, that's it. You'll be all over New York, LA. Everybody will want you guys.
Brent and I were talking about that Darrell, you were there too, going, man, I mean, there's literally rocket scientists that work on some of the teams that are NASA approved people.
It really is.
Yeah. And I'm not kidding. I'm talking to this guy and my buddy Joel goes, he was the computer guy that put all the Apollo rockets into space. And I'm like, the guy I was making electrical jokes to? Awesome. And it's just that kind of stuff. It's just, we were making home improvement jokes back and forth. And, he was complaining about the GFCI outlets in the pits. And I was making a joke about it. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's so people don't do stupid things. And he started laughing and he goes, that's why I like to switch the outlets out. And we all laughed and kept walking our way. But that's the cool thing about this sport, that I think that more people need to check it out. And I hope that there's other owners that come in. Are those boats that are not in the water these days? Are they in a place where, you think that people could come in, or are there plans for some of those, or a lot of them just sitting in warehouses in Auburn, Washington?
Some of them are ready to, it's funny. Most of the ones that aren't racing are in Detroit, owned by one guy. And if we can get 2 or 3 of those out racing, there's a guy getting his boat ready in Alabama. He should be racing next year. I mean, we all talk all the time.
Yeah.
And everybody who owns a boat has this incredible passion for this sport to thrive, and I feel it's on the upswing. I mean, I'll put it this way. The first 2 races we did back east, both promoters said it's the best race they'd had in years.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
That's what you want. And, it's funny because, what I like about this sport too is, if you watch NASCAR, when they go through their tech inspections, they've got a whole cutout of the car that everything has to fit this little piece right there. And that's not the way unlimited hydroplane racing is. I mean, you've got specifications for a boat, but it's not that they bring out the template and say, well, this has to be here, this has to be there. There's not this 1,000-page rule book that says that, you have to do this. Of course, there's rules to make it so there's a fair fight out there, but it's not insanity like NASCAR is.
Right. And we went, one of our boats, the one J. Michael Kelly drives, he got cut off in one lane in Alabama and had to go through the rooster tail. And the sponsons, which, if you don't know about hydroplanes, are the two tips, that come out. One broke off the tip, so probably a foot of the last one where it comes to a point just got sheared off. But by the time I got back to the pits, they'd already been to the hardware store, bought 2 big sheets of styrofoam, and they cut it molded in that place and duct taped it to the boat. And we were able to race the rest of that weekend, set up that way. Yeah. And then we went, when we got to Madison, Indiana, we were able to put like some tape that kind of hardened into like a fiberglass fill. And then when we got home, we had that piece already made, so we're putting that back on. But it just shows you there's a lot of duct tape in this sport. If you get the boats.
Yeah, well, let's talk about this real quick before I got a question for Brent. What's the primary build of these boats? I mean, back in the day when I was a little kid, and Darrell, when you were watching all the way up through your teens, these were a lot of wooden boats, right? I mean, there was a lot of mahogany on the top of the decks of like Bardolls and things like that were really cool. What do you see in boat construction these days?
Well, there's no wood.
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
There's honeycomb fiberglass. There's carbon fiber. There's some titanium pieces. There's the idea is the minimum weight of one of these is 6,500 pounds, and so you want to get as close to that as you can. But they're going to run anywhere from 65 to about 6,800 pounds. All the boats. Obviously, the lighter you get, the faster you get. So, but it's amazing, really. But I'd say most of it's honeycomb fiberglass. Yeah. And then, we even went so far as on one of our boats to save weight. There's like these little deck hatches where you can unscrew them, take it off so you can reach down in the deck and work on things. And I think we have 20 of them on a boat, somewhere around there. And in one of our boats, we made all of those carbon fiber.
Yeah.
Instead of metal, we saved 60 pounds. So,
that's a lot of weight. That's a lot of weight, especially when you're trying to go fast. So
yes, yeah.
I think I'm hearing Darrell say I need to go on a diet. That's what
I don't think, Brent, that should be a concern. You're not talking about me or Darrell. We're not in the boat racing. I think
in the little boats it matters.
I know,
yeah,
exactly.
Really,
but I'm saying you're the jockey, and we look more like the owners. So even though I'm not a boat owner.
Yeah, somebody asked me if I drove the boat. I said I don't think I fit actually down in the cockpit. It's pretty snug.
Speaking of racing, I did that one time. I actually got to do the Dale Jarrett School of Racing at Talladega, so I got to do 8 laps out there. And I tell you what, I'm not a small guy, and getting in there was I'm happy I'm not claustrophobic, because it was like climbing in the smallest of crawl spaces under a house to get in there. By the time you put the Hans device on, you were in a very tiny metal box.
Yeah. There's on our Facebook, somebody posted a picture. We have like a camera inside the cockpit. Did you see that one, Brent? It was of Corey driving.
Yeah. Yes.
And he never blinks. And he looks really calm. I mean, he's going 190 miles an hour in a boat.
Oh my God.
If you see out the window beside him, things are flying by, boats are flying by. He just looks like he's driving on a Saturday morning in a car.
Grandpa.
But
his head bobbing, but his eyes are just focused.
Never blinks one time.
Yeah. Yeah. Was that the one? Was that the video where the camera had kind of spun around and it? Yeah. Okay, I saw that one. Yeah. He was Sunday driving. It looked like Caroline and I were out driving our convertibles out, just enjoying the summertime Sunday afternoon, and he's out there just screaming down the river.
Yeah, and it was amazing. but it's they're wired different. They're not normal.
Well, I always joke though. Like I'll go 180 in a hydroplane, but I never want to fly my own plane. That's just not my thing.
Are you a fast?
So I think everyone has.
Are you a fast
Nope.
driver,
No, thank
Brent?
you.
Like, do you drive your car fast?
No, I'm a 5 over. But boy, if you're in a boat and it's a sanctioned race, love to put my
That's
foot
so
in it.
crazy.
Yep. Yeah, but to describe Brent, he's like one of the calmest, chillest guys I know.
I see.
And I can see where he gets out there and it's like it's mission time. I could see where you get focused and dangerous.
Yeah, no, I just get quiet.
Yep, that's
I'll
what I mean.
talk later. But yep,
So,
that's when you got to.
where can we have these races? So, are they limited? I mean, can you do it in cold water? Can you do it in a lake, a river? To expand the sport and come out to other places, what's required?
Lakes are nice, rivers are nice. I mean, they're really, if you went to the Tri-Cities, Washington, and saw the Columbia River, that is the perfect venue. It's probably half a mile wide, you think, and it's like it's got viewing areas on both sides, but it's anywhere from a lake to the Ohio River's a little narrower, so they just kind of configure the course. It's been a lot of different places. We're running 5 big weekend events this year. It could be up to 8 next year. It's some years it's run 10 in the past, and it's been all the way from Miami to Washington, D.C. to, I mean, you name it. We've been all over the country. So if you have a body of water and you have good viewing ideas where you can actually get a crowd there, but contain it so you can charge admission and pay for everything. That's kind of what they're looking for at a site. Is can you be next to a park, something like that where you can get a good crowd area.
Nice.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the Tri-Cities is to describe that to you, Caroline, and to our audience that doesn't know this. It's a nice straight river right there. You've got parks and access to the river all the way down on both sides. So you can and it's limited access into those areas. So you can charge admission, you can control the crowd, you can have the beer gardens, all the things to make that a successful event, because it's not a charity race. It's they got to be able to make money so they can market it and keep it safe for the people out there viewing. But I see what you mean by it's the perfect, and you're right on top of the course. It's not like it's out in the middle of the lake where you're going, oh, I can't see the backstretch. Yeah.
When you guys need to fly into Tri-Cities. Caroline, you need to come to the Tri-Cities. I have a VIP tent right at the start-finish line.
So fun.
And you fly in and we'll put you in that tent.
Awesome.
There we go.
Ticket with your name on it. Yeah.
I've got
2023 road trip.
See, I have a company name that I want on a logo on a boat. That would be awesome. I am a CEO besides other things that I do. So, yeah.
Darrell does accept checks.
We do. Like,
Healthy home boat.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the fun thing with this sport is that you get to watch it, you get to see it, you get to experience it and enjoy it. And Brent, I just see so many great things moving forward for you coming up into the sport, especially if we can get a few more drivers out there that have boats, get you into a boat out there one of these days. It's going to be excellent to see. And Darrell, man, you're just out there crushing it for somebody that's new to the ownership game, right? I mean, this is new to you and you're out there competing and winning. I mean, you win the Gold Cup and you're new to the sport. It's just, I'm excited for you and your team and what I would call the official team of Around the House show here, Strong Racing. You got a lot to be proud of, brother.
Well, you got to marry right. And so my wife is that really helps a lot.
Well said. Well said. He looks over his shoulder. If you didn't see that, you couldn't see that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So are you going to stick with 2 boats for a while? Is that kind of your game plan for now?
Yeah, I think we've talked. We probably need to buy a backup hull at some point. So when we lose a boat, we can get the vinyl from the sponsors on that boat and be in the next race with that boat. So we'll get there, and we're looking at a few to see if we can get that 3rd boat.
And again, it's not a cheap sport to get into. It's not like you can go out and this isn't like going down to the car dealership and buying a new race car. This is, those are not cheap boats to put in. And then, of course, all the parts you got to throw at them.
That's right.
Yeah, really, you look at our shop is 18,000 square feet. I mean, you have to buy a forklift. You got to buy all these tools. You got to buy engines. You've got to set up an engine room, a gearbox room. I mean, they're just. We want to be a professional racing team. I mean, I want you to walk into that shop and feel like you're in a NASCAR shop.
Yeah.
Yep.
We want it to feel like, look, we are serious about this.
Yeah. And then you just spend the whole off season basically rebuilding boats, don't you? You got the teams going and everybody's, doing all the maintenance or even putting boats back together in this case.
Yeah, you have the crews you race with, and then you probably go down about half that many people that actually will work all winter. And it's like a second job. They're coming there after their job at 4 or 5 in the afternoon and working till 10, 5 days a week.
Yeah, that's a serious commitment to do that as an owner. That's the crazy part with that is that, that this is a 365-day sport for you.
Yeah, and it's you have 2 big refrigerators full of beer, pop, everything you can think of, and that's the currency that unique to this sport.
Yep. There's a lot of volunteers, a lot of people helping, a lot of friends and family, and what makes a team.
But these families that race, Corey's, if you watch the video, Corey's father passed away 4 or 5 weeks ago, and he was one of our truck drivers, and he was retired, and we're having the memorial service for him tomorrow in our shop. The family asked if they could do it in our shop because this is a central place for a lot of these families. And we even have areas where they can bring their kids. We found if we have a place for the kids, because a lot of them bring their kids, we have the beer, we have a pizza oven, and we have about 30 frozen pizzas, and then we're set.
Yeah.
I'm there.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of family affair, Brent, you got family racing too.
I do. And, and actually, I'm glad, Darrell, you brought this up at the end. The family environment that you've created for Strong Racing is absolutely amazing. I'm new to the family, but everyone welcomed me with open arms, sung happy birthday to me. I mean, they really know how to make you feel like you're part of the family. But boy, the kids, and all of our kids are, similar in age, and some of them race. There are going to be kids, mine included, Jay Michaels, who are going to be racing in a demo at Seafair. So I think that's something that's really exciting. But, it's amazing to see the kids get together as well. So the big kids, we all have fun and we get together and talk. But the little kids, they're building some relationships, overnights at different people's houses. It's really been a special environment for little Brent. Many of his lifelong relationships are starting through boat racing.
Nice.
So it means a lot.
That is just awesome. And that's the environment. And as a dad, that's the environment I want my kids to be in. Man, if I would have been with my kids, I look back and go, man, that would have been fun to be involved at that level with that. That's
he's
just,
on cloud nine.
Oh yeah,
he really is. He, getting to hang out and learn about boat racing. He won his first race a couple weekends ago while the team was in Gunnersville. Beyond proud as a dad.
That's awesome. Well, we got 2 big races coming up, right, guys? So we got the Hapo Columbia Cup, July 29th through 31st coming up, and that's in the Tri-Cities, Washington. And then we got Seafair in Seattle, the Home Street Bank Cup, August 5th through 7th. So we got some big legendary races in the world of unlimited hydroplane coming up.
Yeah, we're excited. Most of the teams are actually based out of the Seattle area. So that always makes it, as an owner, it makes this the cheapest race for us. Inviting motels or airfare.
Yeah.
But no, it becomes like the focal point of most of the people, I think, the Seattle race.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then San Diego is the next race after that. Is that how that works?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's in September. And the best thing about the San Diego race is it's in San Diego.
Beautiful
Nice.
race course.
Nice. Well, anything else we didn't talk about, guys? Anything else that we didn't touch on today that we should mention out to our listeners out there? And of course, we want those people in Seattle and in Tri-Cities and the surrounding area to go hit the race and support it, because that's why we're here, is to help make sure that we get people out to that race, because those are big times. And I know, Darrell, you're going to throw it all out there, aren't you?
We are, yeah. And I think the thing people don't realize about these boats is every race course gets different set of gears. And really the secret, Brent, wouldn't you agree, the secret to this sport is knowing which gears to run in which race. And so the Seattle race gets the shortest gears of any of the 5 races, because it's the straights are shorter, the turns are, they're harder to get out of, the water's a little choppier. So that's what I've learned about it, owning boats that I didn't know before. But every race we put a different set of gears in.
That makes sense, because like on Lake Washington, you don't have this big, huge current of a water where that hole is now down, 2 laps later is now 100 yards down the river with the current. Once those things kind of get choppy, it just gets choppy out there.
If you can't get out of turn 2 in Seattle, you're not going to win.
Yep.
There you go.
Darrell Strong, Brent Hall, thank you both for taking the time to get here today. And we'll come back and visit this even more. And I think, Caroline, we're going to have to get you on a plane for 2023
I think
racing season. Maybe we'll come out here.
That's done. And you guys got to come to the East Coast. We need a race here. Somewhere in New York. We've got a lot of waterways. Even the Carolinas, right?
I bet you've got some connections. Yeah,
Yep.
Let's get it done.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, Caroline, we can work this out. So you can come out here. We'll do some in-studio, around-the-house stuff. Maybe we can do that.
It's going to make me work, guys. You see, it's always about the work.
I'm going to make him work. Make her work, see?
I'm going to go and
we do it right. We can get you to 2 races.
Yeah.
I want pizza and beer. Forget work. I got enough work.
All right, guys. Thanks again. I'm Eric G.
And I'm Caroline B.
And you've been listening to Around the House.
Somewhere unseen and undiscovered, anywhere beyond the mean. Life is a love song, let's be lovers. We're all over the radio. Take my hand, I know where to go. All over the radio with you.
Hey, it's Eric G. from Around the House. Are you planning a decking or siding project this year? If you are, you've got to check out my friends at Millboard. Millboard is a completely different kind of composite decking and cladding that enhances outdoor spaces with enduring distinction. Hand-molded from the finest oak, it realistically mimics the natural grain and color of premium hardwood. If you're looking for something that doesn't look like plastic and instead real wood, check out millboard.com. Make sure and check out that interview we did just a few weeks back. That's millboard.com.